Could you tell me a bit about yourself and the work that you do as an organizer?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm Sartaj. I work for UFCW Canada, which is the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. It's a union that represents a lot of retail, industrial workers, among other sectors as well. And yeah, one of the things that I do is I help organize workers. And what that typically looks like is it's pretty multifaceted. So definitely there's a part of my job where I assist workers that want to form a union at their workplace. So this can look different depending from workplace to workplace, what that work will typically look like. But a lot of the times, the main aspect of my job is to act like an information guide or like an educator, whether that's educating about the actual labor processes, like the labor code, like the legal aspect of it, what the process looks like, what they can typically expect, or some strategies that they can use to kind of go about organizing their workplace. But there's a whole other facet as well of ensuring that we're advocating for good working conditions for workers throughout the province, and trying to really increase Employment Standards Act standards as well.
How did you get into labor organizing? Like, what's the story of that?
Everyone has a different story. My story is a little, I guess, unconventional in the sense that I didn't know anything about the labor movement or labor rights or anything initially. I was going to school full time at SFU, and while I was there, I obviously needed a job to kind of pay my way through school. So I was working at the Safeway grocery store. And Safeway grocery stores are unionized with UFCW, the union that I work for now. And we had our union representative that was like doing their visits as they do. And they spoke to me like during one of my shifts, and they were talking about how they needed a shop steward that was younger and was working the evening shifts to ensure that there was a shop steward that was available for people in the evening and that younger workers would feel comfortable talking to. So they were like, I think you would be great. Like, let's put you in there. And it was during that training that I actually learned about a youth internship program that UFCW does. And they were like, you know what? Like, we think that this would be a really good opportunity for you. You're young. And plus, it looks like you're willing to learn a lot about this kind of stuff. And if you don't know anything, that's totally fine. The whole purpose of the program was to basically help create the next generation of activists. So I was able to do that. And then from that was like the youth internship program is kind of what really started the fire in me to really create some change and like learn a lot more about the labor movement and what it entails.
But is there anything you wish you would have known before you started that, or what you would tell maybe other people that are trying to get involved in labor organizing?
I think that as a labor movement as a whole, we definitely need to do a lot better in terms of educating like the next generation of workers. Because even in my day-to-day job, there's a lot of people that have never heard of a union or let alone know what that means. And I think that that's something that we really need to work on so that way, regardless of organizing or anything, there's a lot of workers, especially workers that just entered the workforce, that have no idea what their labor rights are. Sometimes not even like what minimum wage is, what their rights regarding any sort of benefits, vacation time, sick days, anything like that is. And that leaves a lot of workers open to being in really vulnerable positions or really open to kind of getting taken advantage of by their employer. I mean, for anybody that like is wanting to get involved or wanting to kind of learn more, I think the most important thing to do is, regardless of whatever opportunities come, that everyone try to get involved because work is so important. Unfortunately, like a really important part of our lives.
It's like, is there anything you wish older members of the labor movement understood about young labor organizers?
Yeah, I think so. I think there, just like with any social movement, there's always change that occurs, and there's always things that we need to adapt to. Just, any social movement, whether it even be like feminism or anything, there's always, different waves of it. And I think that the labor movement is no different in that regard. There's a very different way that organizers did their job back in the day. And there's so much value in the work that they did and how they did it. I think a lot of the things that we take for granted today is because of the advocacy that they did and the fights that they had to fight. The labor movement looks a lot different now a lot of the times, and because working conditions are so different, and the landscape of work, especially with like gig work or like, you know, online work and that kind of stuff, it's so different that we need to adapt and we need to look at different ways of connecting with workers, because ultimately, like, organizing is relationship building. That's the core of the work that we do. And I think it's so important that we have organizers that reflect the demographic and reflect workers in order to build those relationships and those connections.
To that, do you see more, I guess, intersectionality coming into the labor movement where workers have like more people that they relate to and can connect with?
Definitely. I mean, especially considering UFCW, we're doing a really good job of ensuring that we have organizers and such that speak multiple different languages, that are, you know, in different phases of their lives, that have different backgrounds as well, whether it be through like education, through food banks, through labor itself. So that way you're able to kind of draw upon your past experiences to really connect with the workers. And so having like this variety of experiences, of languages, everything, I think it's so important to have, and UFCW is really doing a good job to ensure that we're doing it. But there's always more work that we can do, and always, you know, pathways to move forward. But definitely looking at it from an intersectionality point of view, I think it's something that at least UFCW is doing a lot of work towards.
Yeah, thank you so much. Even, yeah, like I didn't really know a lot about before, I guess, taking the class that I'm taking right now or just like speaking to you. So I really appreciate you just informing me and sharing your story.
Of course, yeah.